Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. Now, one of the things that brings me the most joy in the work that I get to do every single day is watching the incredible growth on all levels that my clients experience. Now, my job is to shine the light on blind spots, provide new perspectives, new strategies, and gently nudge, or in some cases, shove my clients out of their comfort zones. That requires tough conversations. And sometimes my husband will ask me at the dinner table, how many women did I make cry today? Because let's be real, you guys, entrepreneurship is just as much personal development as it is strategy. And when you're doing the work, the real work, the deep work that it takes, that can bring up so much of your own BS. Those stories, the beliefs that we may not even realize that we hold to be true. Well, Andrea is one of the very few clients who has actually made me cry. And she describes herself as a retired kind of spa owner, a skincare device manufacturer, a nonprofit founder, a serial entrepreneur that needs a nap. Well, I describe her as a purpose-driven serial entrepreneur who is making the world a better place every single day. And her fancy headline, the social media headline, is that she went from a solo esthetician to a retired storefront spa owner with 14 employees in 18 months. Oh yeah, and that was also during a pandemic. She works about 10 hours a month on her brick and mortar while still collecting a nice paycheck, and she's created the time freedom and lifestyle freedom to dedicate her life to her true passions and still be able to take an afternoon nap whenever she wants. Now, in the interview, we unpack what she attributes made this incredible accomplishment possible. And what I love is that we get into the unsexy part of this process. I don't want to just shine the light on the big fancy headline. I want to talk about what it actually took to do the work, what she went through, the emotions, the ups and downs. We unpack all of it. And I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I did. All right, Andrea, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I feel like it's been 2 years that I've been trying to have those words come out of my mouth.
I know, it's really happening.
It's really happening. So your big fancy pants headline is going from solo esthetician to retired in 18 months. And I guess retired, when we say retired, you went from a solo esthetician, you moved to a storefront location. How many employees do you have now?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I meant to figure that out.
I think you have 12, right?
Yeah, as far as everybody on payroll. There's a couple people that are behind the scenes, not actually seeing clients, but 12. And I just hired 2 more. So
around 12 to 14 people on payroll, and you officially retired from the business, not even getting out of the rooms, but retired from spa day-to-day operations where you're working maybe 10 hours a month on that business.
Right.
From 18 months time.
I know you put it that way. That sounds really amazing. It's just been such a long, hard road.
Well, that's what I want to unpack on this podcast, because so often when we hear headlines like that, people say, well, that could never be me, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm solo. I don't know how I could ever do that. I don't have the time, the money, the energy, the skill, whatever it is. And you are living proof that when you put your mind to something and you really do the work, everything is possible. Everything is possible.
And I finally believe that. I'm seeing it actually happen. Because I've been hearing it and reading about it in books and being coached and mentored for years. And it is possible.
Where do you want to start on that journey as far as, I guess we should just start at the beginning. And what was going on inside of you? Did you know that you wanted to be completely retired from the spa, or did you just have this desire for something more? Like, what was driving you back when you were a solo esthetician?
I guess I always knew in the back of my mind that I would like to, but it just seemed like that happens to other people. That wouldn't happen to me. And when I had, and when you're solo, or I may have one employee, my husband's a microblader, so he works with me. That counts, I guess, as an employee. But you don't, when you're doing all the jobs, I didn't feel like I had the time to really think about what I wanted to do.
I feel like in the beginning with you, what I kept hearing from you is, I want to travel. I want to get out of the cold.
That's a given. Right. So at first that was my goal. Was I'm like an avid world traveler. So the more I could, remove myself from the business, the more freedom I would have to travel the world. But then there came a point where I thought, well, there's even more I could do than just, I was already doing the traveling, but more traveling is better when you're addicted to it. But I hadn't really discovered what my purpose was. I liked the spa. I thought the margins were great. This is a great living. I love my clients. I love the women that I meet, but I hadn't really found my why. And frankly, when you're busy wearing all the hats and you're a parent and you're a wife, like, who has time to sit down and think about, why am I doing this? Like, what's my purpose for the earth? Or, what did God put me here for? No, it's just it's survival. It's just putting out fires.
So what was it that gave you the possibility to do that work, to figure out what you wanted? Was it the pandemic? Was it?
Yeah.
So
totally. It was a forced stop. Who would have seen that coming? Right. Of course. But yeah, having that forced stop, it felt like the first time in ever that I could actually just stop and think about, why am I doing what I'm doing? How can I do it better? How can I come back improved? How can I improve the business? And once I had that freedom to think, that's when the magic happened. And it may have happened sooner or later anyway, but that forced stop, I really took advantage of that.
It gave you space. It gave you, and I feel like that's one of the gifts of the pandemic is when we're trying to look at all the positive things that have happened. I've said a million times, so many people have said, I realized I was going 100 miles an hour this way, and I actually wanted to go that way.
Totally.
And realizing that, something that's really important to me is, how do we keep those types of things going now that life is somewhat returning to normal? We're still in the pandemic as we speak, 18 months in, 19 months in, whatever it is. However, how do we take those lessons that we learned, the benefits that we got from stopping, the skills that we learned from having to pivot and connect with our customers on a deeper level, right? How do we take that and continue that into the coming, into our business when the world is totally back to normal, or whatever that normal is. Right.
Right.
Okay. So walk me through, you had the pandemic, you're thinking, you realize, is that when you realized, well, that's when Liberty was born. Should we He
was born during a run one afternoon, probably like last June, on probably like a Tuesday afternoon. Who would have had time before on a Tuesday afternoon to just go for a run through the park in the middle of the day? And I remember running, and it was beautiful and sunny. And I thought, God, it's so good to be free. My day is free. I'm healthy. My kids are mostly happy. They're teenagers.
Let's be real.
But this literal, the physical and mental freedom it just hit me in that moment as what a blessing that was. And I thought in that moment, I got to do something with this clarity, because I might never get this peace back again. And so that's kind of how the idea of freedom and how important freedom was to me. And then how I could turn that into a business started.
So Liberty was born, and Liberty, just for those of you, we talked about this in the intro a little bit, but Liberty is a skincare device, but it was I remember when you and I were having a call, you were like, I want this to be something that when I'm traveling, I'm not carrying a million devices. I have the freedom to just have one thing and still have beautiful skin and not have to worry about all of that. Like that was one of the very first things. And then it evolved into this deeper meaning and deeper life's purpose for you of discovering what does freedom mean to you as a woman, right? Because so many women have faced so many, I mean, it's a very deep conversation, and you've done such an excellent job with your brand story and the videos, interviewing hundreds of I mean, I don't know how many women you've interviewed, but
dozens.
Dozens, hundreds, dozens. It'll be hundreds. It'll be hundreds. But so many women, and asking them, what does freedom mean to you? Right. So tying that to the actual device is really creating a brand story and a movement. And that became, because you also have your Liberty Foundation, where your goal is to donate 1 million in grants to women entrepreneurs. Beautiful. But that became the motivator. That became the thing that was bigger than you, that said, hey, this is my purpose. This is what I'm on this planet to do, is help other women find freedom for themselves. Entrepreneurship is a way that women can gain their own freedom.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
And so having that motivator, is that what gave you the courage? Because it does take courage to, to say, all right, I want to remove myself from the spa now.
Yeah, because I know I can go to this shop and make money. I had my established clients. We have relationships. They love me. I know I can go in and make money so to deliberately remove yourself from that and have to train other people to have those types of relations, that's a huge leap of faith. But it's also, it can be done. I mean, there's a formula for it. You just got to do whatever Daniela says and it works.
But it was a process. Like it was
totally. It wasn't overnight. It's a process. So and it was highs and lows.
Tell me some of the highs and some of the lows. Like what was the scariest thing for you in that journey? Was it, because I mean, this journey where you're doing this over these 18 months, this was also, the pandemic happened, right? I think you opened your store November 2019.
Right.
And then March was when we closed.
Yeah.
How long were you shut down?
At least 2 months. I think we went back mid-June. We were able to partially open. And then we stayed partially open. Then we got fully open, had to shut down again. So there was like 2 shutdowns within that 10-month period.
So go ahead. No, for a new business though, that's because you were only open a few months, trying to bring on your team, trying to train your team, all of that.
Right.
So tell me, what was the most challenging piece of that for you? Like in that entire journey, was it removing yourself from the rooms? Was it showing up as a leader, the hiring process? Like, what was it that took the most of your energy and effort to make this happen?
I think it was acceptance. I had to just accept that for me to grow personally, for me to grow the company that I feel like I was born to grow, I had to remove myself from the treatment room. And I had to accept that it would be a loss of income temporarily, that I would be spending a lot more on payroll, and not just to like other estheticians, but I needed a spa manager, like a full-time, somebody that would care about my business the way I did. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that too. That was the key. That is what has made all of this possible in this short period of time. Because that person is acting as the visionary in your company. Yeah. Now I was the face, now she's the face. And if you're going to put someone as the face of your company into the community, you want someone that cares as much as you do. So she fell into my lap. It was amazing. And I'm eternally grateful for Heidi. She does. She cares about my business as much, if not more, than I do.
So how, tell me about, okay, so she fell into your lap. That's great. But tell me about the process of teaching her about your brand, passing things over, transitioning. Cause I know that was a process. It wasn't just you're hired and here's the keys to the shop.
Right.
It was kind of a gradual. So what did that look like?
Well, it went pretty smoothly because when I brought Heidi on, I think I only had 2 estheticians working for me, or one full-time, one part-time. So it's not like she took over as spa manager and I handed her 10 estheticians to manage. So a lot of the process, we were able to grow and create systems together. I was able to take a lot of the documents that you give us access to in Growth Factor, the different trackers in the handbook, and we kind of like learned and put it together, which I know everybody doesn't have that situation. But really what's important is just what you've been preaching for years, and that's just systems. Just even the smallest, littlest thing, have it systemized. So I could say, this is how our booking system works. This is our method for handling no-shows. And just already having those things documented for her to implement. And she has, I guess, what you'd call emotional intelligence. She has the ability to just figure it out and handle it. And those are qualities you really can't train. You've got to find somebody that can just, within reason, just handle it in your absence. But having all the systems in place helps.
Hire the smile, train the skill.
Right.
Getting the right people, because you can't teach integrity. You can't teach, those are super important. So when you brought Heidi on, you were still seeing clients.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I remember, I think we had a plan where it was like each month you were removing 1 month.
Right.
Or 1 day. So it was like, to transition gradually.
Yeah.
So looking back, I mean, what you accomplished in such a short period of time is incredible. But looking back, if you were to do that all over again, is there anything that you would change the order or anything that you would do differently in that process?
Yeah, definitely. Let me think about this. What would I do differently? I wish to goodness I would have, when it was just me, like I was really solo, I had created systems for everything. I know I keep going back to that, but the bigger I get, the more I realize, like, oh God, if I had started this when it was just me, I would have avoided a lot of headache.
Well, it's so easy though, when it's just you, it's all in your head and it seems like you're creating more work for yourself by doing the system. But that's why when we talk about beginning with the end in mind, it's like you document everything, because for me, being a true solo is the riskiest business you can have, because if you get into, like, we had one gal in Growth Factor, I don't know if you remember, but she got into a car accident or did some accident with her wrist got broken.
Okay.
And at that point she was a true solo and she had to pivot what she was doing because she couldn't see clients. Right. So there's random things like that can happen. You can, I've had 2 babies throughout my business, was able to go on maternity, right? All of those things, if you don't have a team, if you don't have systems, or if you're the only person generating revenue in your business, that's scary.
Yeah. And slowing down to do, for me personally, I know everybody doesn't have a brain like me. There's people like Giselle that are really, I can text her and be like, send me your protocol for this or this or this, and she'll have it and send me her systems. And then all of a sudden it becomes my systems. So I'm grateful for people like that. But for me and the way my brain operates, it was hard to make myself take time away from the treatment room, which to me always meant dollar signs, to create systems. I wish I would have respected that as another part of the job that was just as critical as answering the phone, making appointments, selling retail. That would have been a big help. But
well, here's the $1 million question.
Okay.
Are you doing it for Liberty?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay.
I'm scared because my goal for Liberty is so much bigger than my goal for just the spa. Yeah. Like if my goal is to donate $1 million a year in grants to women that want to start or sustain a small business, like I got to have something better than a bunch of receipts stuffed in Ziploc bags. Just between me and you.
You're like, this is the real deal now.
This is real.
Okay. So for the solos that are listening right now and are like, I want that. I want to create that for myself. I want to be where Andrea is in 18 months from now or 24 months or whatever the timeline is. Would you say, all right, obviously systems, like that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, right.
But in terms of hiring.
Oh, yes.
Is it, this is a question I get all the time and I'm curious your answer. What's the most important hire? Is it another provider? Is it front desk? Is it spa manager?
It's spa manager, hands down. Absolutely. Because when you're solo, you're the business. So to actually replace yourself, you can train a great facial, you can train how to do shape eyebrows and all that stuff. But for someone to care, like on an emotional level about the health of your company and to be the person that greets and that talks and that plans, that's the most important. But it can also at the beginning feel like the most painful because they're not in the treatment room. They're not doing the services. They're not selling, retail. But that's another pain point you just have to mentally work through. Like it's non-negotiable. That's step one.
Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about this process and what was the most challenging piece. And you had mentioned mindset. And I think it's something that, we said, you can learn systems on Google. You can learn how to there's YouTube for everything, right? So the skills, if you want to spend enough time, you can learn whatever you want to learn on the internet.
Right.
But the mindset, the personal development work that comes into believing that you can actually build a 7-figure company, an 8-figure company, a company that gives you, regardless of the revenue, a company that gives you the time or lifestyle freedom that you're looking for, right? Because it's not about the revenue. You can be extremely successful, have a, whatever revenue company and have the time freedom that you want, right? Because it's what is going to make you happy. What did you do? How did you go through that mindset work to get you to the space that now you can say, yeah, I'm working on building an 8-figure company. I'm working on building a brand that's going to impact the lives of millions of women around the world. This is a movement. This is more like this. What you're creating is you text me the other day and we're like, I think I need to be on QVC. How do we do that? How do we get on QVC? I'd like to do that next. And I was like, okay. But being in that space where that's a legitimate question.
Right.
Where when you were a solo, I remember you saying to me that the fact that you can look at me and say that I'm going to be a 7-figure business owner this year. And this was, I think 2 years ago, you were like, that blows my mind that's because this was before you opened your brick and mortar. So your thought of yourself and what you are capable of had shifted and grown so much.
Yeah.
So what did that take? Because that's the real work.
Well, and it's still work. It's work every single day. Like we said before, I have all of the resources I need to, on paper, create whatever I want. But then there's so many blocks up here that I didn't even know I had I didn't even know I had them until I started down this journey of trying to create a multi-million-dollar company for the sole purpose of course, I want to create revenue for myself, but the bigger vision is to bring freedom through entrepreneurship to other women. Um, how do you do that? Coaching, having a really good coach, having a network of other like-minded women. And it's amazing when I talk to my other girlfriends in our little group, we all struggle with the same thing. But it's interesting. I look at them and say, why are you struggling? Like, you're successful, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, like get over this and move on, make your $1 million. But it's the thing, no matter how it appears on the outside, on the inside, like that's the hard work. And we all come from different backgrounds. The way we were raised around money, the way we thought we should view a career, maybe the way we are, or maybe just the fact that we're women. We're not used to seeing other women in roles of leadership. And I don't mean leadership just as in owning a spa, but owning a multi-million-dollar company. You know,
I mean, we're just now in 2021 having the first female vice president. So we've grown up women didn't get the right to vote until 1920, right? So there's so many, when we talk about the need to see other people, like other women in leadership, it really does help for you to believe that it's possible when you see other things like that happening. I think that's why Jamie Kern-Lima's book was so impactful for me. Believe it, right? I mean, that's exactly what she was preaching. And for those of you that haven't listened to that episode, Jamie is the founder of It Cosmetics. She built that brand and sold it to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion over the course of a decade. So 10 years, she went from zero, having $1,000 in her bank account, starting her company, all the way up to selling it to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion. And her advice was, you have to believe.
Right. And it sounds cliche. It sounds easy, but to genuinely believe it, like on a cellular level, that takes work. But what I've also found is that work takes space in your life. That's work. For me personally, I get that work done like when I'm exercising, if I'm running, or doing a yoga class, or just to get the blood pumping and I'm alone in my headspace. I get a lot of self-work done in those places. Of course, the network I have through Growth Factor is just invaluable. Books, just constantly feeding my mind with positivity. Nothing that has to do with the logistics of a business, but really reading autobiographies of other women entrepreneurs. You see what they've come through, what they've come from.
Did you read the DVF book, by the way?
I'm in the Audible right now, halfway through.
Okay. Is that incredible?
Yeah. And it's stories like that. And I don't know if this is getting too derailed, but there's this, what is her name? Madam. She was the African-American woman that created the hair cream. She has a whole series on Netflix.
I watched the whole series on Netflix. I forget the name too, but
she was Walker, something like that.
Yes, she was the first millionaire woman.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't she the first? And she had the house in the Hamptons and all it was incredible.
I think about women like that. I'm like, she was a minority. She wasn't exceptionally beautiful. She lived in a time where she was oppressed. I mean, they're still oppressed, but especially, 100 years ago. But what she was able to create just out of pure will and grit. There was no inspirational post on Instagram every day. There was no, mentor group chat to join. So I think, there's a lot of women that have had it a lot harder than me, and they've done this. So you can do this, Andrea. Even though your mind's telling you you're just a little nobody from the middle of nowhere, like you can do this. God put you here for this. So
when you believe that, and when you see that the impact that you have on other people, because we are all impacting others, whether we realize it or not. And our actions just the actions of seeing people go after their dreams, like that is it's so inspiring.
Right.
And to believe that and to go all in, because you realize people are going to judge you regardless.
Right.
So you may as well do what you love. And if you fail, at least you tried.
Yeah.
Right. At least you
cares.
tried.
Nobody cares as much as you think they're going to care. They don't. Yeah. Maybe your mom. That's it.
No, it's so important and so true. And there's so many business lessons that seem so like, this is business 101. I don't have time for like knowing your why and understanding your core values and setting up systems and making time for self-care.
Yes.
Right? How many times have we heard that over and over and over? And you're like, I don't have time for that. I need to get to 6 figures. I need to do
But that's where the magic is. That's where the magic happens. And you cannot go around it. You have to go through it.
Yep.
You have to.
100%. Yeah. Okay. So let's finish up here and just talk a little bit more about Liberty. Because I want to know, like, what is your vision for this company? What's been your struggle? What's easier than you thought? Like, tell me the kind of high level things that this kind of Andrea 2.0 is going through, right? What's the difference in building this business versus your brick and mortar?
Wow. Well, I obviously can take a lot of the lessons that I've learned from business through having the brick and mortar into this business that's mostly going to be like e-commerce. What's been the easiest? I think once I realized what my why was, then everything became clear. Like the vision for the company, how I would get there, the nervousness about it. I know we've been talking about why. That's one of the first questions you ask, like when you go through Spa Retail Rock Stars. And I would just kind of like, make something up. I want women to feel great about the way they look. And I know but that's what everybody says that owns a spa.
I remember I asked you to do that exercise and you're like, I don't really like spa. I don't really, you're like, I'm not really.
Why do people spend all these money on eyelashes? But whatever.
Yeah. But when you did that, you actually did the exercise. That was like the beginning of the light bulb going off.
Right. Yeah. So, but the why for Liberty, once I had that wasn't hard to come up with, or that just kind of came to me when I had that space. Once I had the why, then it just became exciting. Like, I don't really look at any of it as being hard. It's just like a fun challenge because I don't know, the branding of the company is to me, it's so unique and so special that what I do is basically ask women the question, what does freedom mean to you? And every woman has a different answer. And what I have found is they have different answers throughout different periods of their life. Like what freedom means to you at 20 is different than you're 40 or 60. But once you answer that question, really is what unites us all, because we all want freedom of some sort. That's why we work. We want it for our children. We want it for our grandchildren. We want it for our employees. We want it for our own mental health. And once women started coming forward, telling me what freedom means to them, and I could see how powerful it was and how appreciative they felt to be given a platform to tell their stories of liberation. And sometimes it's as light as freedom to me would be paying off my student loan. Or as heavy as freedom to me was choosing my own spouse, which sounds like something we all take for granted. But the woman who told me this, she's Muslim Pakistani. And for her to choose a spouse that was not Muslim meant that she's been completely shunned by her family. Her dad won't speak to her. But that, even though that was such a restrictive choice, it seemed in that moment, it ultimately led to her freedom. And it just goes on and on. The women that come forward with their stories of liberation. and how really it resonates with all of us.
I've cried. I mean, every time you send me the videos of, the process, when you're the raw footage and everything, like there's been 2 or 3 videos that made me cry. And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching it, and Kyle walks in and he's like, "What are you doing? Are you okay?" And I'm like,
"Yeah." Why are you crying?
No, but they're so powerful. And it's something that's what it means to build a brand.
Right.
And I think we lose that a lot in our brick and mortar, and we're focused on, here's the service that I can do. Here's the profitability. Right. But the real power is, what does your company stand for? How does it make your clients feel? How can you develop and create that brand? And I see that as one of the biggest. You've always been great at branding, and your brick and mortar is branded incredibly well, but you took it to a whole new level with this company. And what I see from the outside is, because you're so passionate about your why, you have had people coming out of the woodwork saying, "I just want to intern for you. Right. I just want to help." Right. There's like,
"Can I just donate? I don't even need to buy anything. How can I help?"
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. And that's something that happens when you are so connected to your purpose and so mission focused, right? Because the device is incredible, right?
Yeah.
I remember
it is a great little device.
This thing is so cool. Like going through you're like, as I'm going through and looking at all the modes, I'm like, this thing really is awesome.
Yeah.
But that's just the device. It's
right.
the brand, right? It's the why. Right. It's exactly like Simon Sinek's Start With Why. It's like Apple is the brand, and then they make these other little things, right?
Right.
It's that's what it is. With Liberty, you're creating the brand, and whatever you sold doesn't really matter, right?
I know. Yeah. And you've been telling me that for years, but now I see it in action. And I also see that's why I buy all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing special to this. Why did I buy this? It's the brand that was associated with it. It's you don't realize.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
It's a tape measure.
Oh.
But why did I pick this tape measure, right? Because of the brand I liked associated with it. So we've been making these decisions, even like not even knowing why we're picking and choosing the items that we're choosing.
It's so subconscious. Yeah.
Right. Brand is everything.
Okay. So wrapping up, I want you to give one last bit of advice for estheticians who are wanting to emulate what you've done. They want to follow in your footsteps for their own companies. How can they get to that space? So what's, one just closing bit of advice? And then I want you to tell people where they can learn more about Liberty.
Okay. I think finding a network of like-minded women, I really think that has been crucial, because I'm assuming anybody that's listening has access. We all have the Google internet, or they've got access to the different basic programs that you offer. But once you take it to that next level of finding a group of women that you have, they're same mission driven, and working through your money mindset with a coach or a therapist even, I think that's key. Yeah.
And where I 100% agree. And it's whatever level you go to, you're going to have the same issues come up. It's not like all of a sudden, okay, you crossed 6 figures, now you've made it. No. You have the same blocks, the same issues that come up. You cross 7 figures, same issues, same blocks, right? And I'm assuming when you get to 8 figures, same issues, same blocks. They're always going to come up for you to have to deal with and have to address and do the work. Where can people learn more about Liberty?
I would say go to our Instagram. It's just getting the ball rolling. It's Liberté. So it's actually the French word for freedom, Liverte, Liberté Skincare. That's our Instagram handle. And the Liberty Skincare Co. is the website.
Perfect. We'll get those linked up. Andrea, thank you so much I know so many estheticians are going to be inspired by this. For those of you that want to keep the conversation going, head on over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group and we can chat more there.